Neal's been with us, how long now? 3 years.
3 years,
Yeah, 3 years. Our IXD practice manager, and how many people we got in the IXD practice now?
We just hit 15.
Yeah, 15 people, which is a pretty solid number for the dynamic nature of those projects, and what we do is actually, it's great. A little fact about STG: we have 140 plus full-time employees. They're arranged across all those disciplines that I mentioned earlier. IXD being one of them, and I won't steal any more of your time, Neal. You can talk to us about the case for the Ugly Duckling. Why we need UX.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. First of all, I know that this is, whether or not you're planning a lunch break anyway, it means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it that you choose to spend that time with me. Oh, hey, I'm starting now. Okay, there we go. I was supposed to tell them when I was starting. Let me get a little bit of a better idea of what kind of makeup we have here. Raise your hand if you identify yourself as a UX person. Okay, so those of you who are looking for UX people, there they are. Raise your hand if you identify as a dev person. A few of those. Mixed roles. Okay, raise your hand if you identify as a stakeholder. Okay, a couple of those. What's up, Scott? How you doing, man? Okay. All sorts of ways to identify. Okay, cool. So it's good to know who we've got with us. I hope you don't mind if I refer to my notes just a little bit more than I normally would, just because I don't want to and too much for the purposes of being recorded, if that's okay. But anyway, so let's just jump into this here. The purpose of this presentation is to give you ammunition to be able to speak to people who do not yet understand the value of a UX effort in their businesses or in any other way. By way of introduction, I have often felt that the best way to get to know someone is through their Halloween costumes. So here we go. I make my own Halloween costumes whenever I possibly can, but lately I've been cheating and buying them, which is terrible. But I made this one. Anyone know who it is? Close, close. It is a Muppet. It's Pepe the Prawn. It could be full of chocolate, okay? Yeah, that one, okay? This is the more cowbell guy. I want to take just a moment to speak about my belly. The belly is actually, I did a lot of experimentation. The best way to do it is controlled top pantyhose. It's got the little lip. You stuff it with batting, and I just painted hair on it. Just so the next time you're... No, okay, yeah, and I had to clear, someone always says that when I show this picture. Let's see. There are more than one ways to accomplish that. This is the Oogie Boogie Man, of course, from Nightmare Before Christmas. That was my most complex costume. That took so much time. There's a little bug spilling out of my tummy there. That's something that I added. I don't know if you're super nerdy about Nightmare Before Christmas. There's Vector. I didn't make much of this costume. I made the gun. The gun's a Nerf blaster. It's got an octopus stuck to a little ball, and it comes blasting out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then this is what I did. So this is actually at an STG event. There was another company doing another movie viewing across the hall from where we were. This is, of course, the movie viewing for episode 8. And my kids dressed up as stormtroopers, and I dressed up as Kylo Ren, and we kicked off the Wookiee. So that's what happened there. All right. So there you go. Now you know something about me. That's my nerdy obsession.
He has an awesome costume.
Oh, yeah. I also do face painting. I don't know. You can hire me out for birthday parties or whatever. I don't do, like, glitter, though, because glitter is evil. Let's just be honest. All right, so I often refer to designers as ugly ducklings. I think that we have a lot of comparisons. Just like the infamous bird of fairy tale lore, we aren't much to look at. However, we've done some growing up, and I think we have tons of potential. And when all is said and done, I think that we're going to end up really beautiful. So the field of user experience design is in its infancy, and just like a lot of nascent beings, we're still defining ourselves and refining ourselves. Yet, even in the throes of full-blown evolution, we are just as essential to modern-day enterprise as the internet. So, in summary, just because it's ugly doesn't mean it's inessential. All right. Keep that in mind. That's the whole point here. One of the things that I love from, I don't know if you've ever read Creativity Incorporated. Raise your hand if you read Creativity Incorporated. Few hands. Oh, love that book. It is a master course for developing ideas. Ed Catmull, yep, from Pixar, of course. He refers to new ideas as ugly babies. You know, when you first get an idea, it isn't fully realized. And a lot of these things just look awful when you first get them. But the point is to not chuck the ugly babies, but it's to hang on to them, to develop them, and to see what they can become. And so many of their movies started out as ugly babies. I think that UX designers are very similar in that as long as you don't chuck us, then you're going to see some real value and see some amazing things happen. So, a lot of this presentation came about because I'm just shocked and dismayed at how many developers and stakeholders and even some designers don't know about the value of UX. A little while ago, a client approached us and asked, well, sorry. I considered at the time for this to be a really strange request. He asked me if I could provide some more ammo for him. His higher-ups didn't really understand the value of UX. And so I just kind of said to him, don't you know? Don't they know? I just, until that point, just kind of assumed, oh, God, well, everyone understands what we do. We have so much extrinsic value that we just shine like a penny everywhere we go, right? But apparently that's not the case.
I'm curious.
Sure, go ahead.
More curiosity. Do you guys feel like you're on the same thing, that you're always fighting to get your ideas pushed forward, or budget, or that type of stuff, or a lot of corporations you deal with?
I get a lot. Our higher ups, they always say it's good enough.
It's good enough.
Because don't have to be done. Yeah. You know, or they say, well, we always compare it to like a house, like what's a broken window? Like, oh, we replaced the window. It's a different window than what's in the rest of the house. If you were to, you had your farm style windows and you were to put in some just plain glass to replace your broken window, you look, step back and see the whole house, and then this looks bad. But they don't see that. They don't understand. They just don't fit it now.
It's very functional. It's keeping the heat in, the cold out. We're good. It's
for us, it's always been a struggle. It always seems to be the way that they can take shortcuts or cut corners in the development of the software.
It's funny you mentioned that, and
No, you're fine. No problem.
One of the previous round we talked about the broken window syndrome. That exact philosophy of the decay of society starts with a broken window. That you can go into a neighborhood and this broken window's there, and then all of a sudden the house next to it, their window's broken. Front doors needs to be repainted. Then all of a sudden garbage cans are tipped over and the garage door's broken, and it's just the fabric just unweaves.
The living style of living just changes.
Exactly. Which is the same high bar. It was ironic that in that same discussion, I was actually thankful that I was in an HOA for once. That I was like, hey, that's why I pay money for that. Anyway, so.
I think a close relative of what you're speaking about here is when the role of a UX person has been misinterpreted. You UX people out here, have you ever had an experience where someone has misinterpreted what you do as a UX person? Anyone care to share anything personal and gory?
Has anybody ever had it where they've interpreted it correctly?
Yeah, I guess that'd be the easier question or the more exclusive question to ask. Okay, hey, if you don't want to share personal experiences, this may not be the right time for that. Sorry, go ahead, Ty.
The bigger thing is they think they know. And then once you start talking to them, they get upset because what they thought they know was wrong. And so subjectively, basically attacking their knowledge base. So they think that's the human side of it. But from a business standpoint, as if they say they recognize everybody else has UX writing, right? They bring in somebody, and that person then starts asking questions that are, well, you're not, You know, they start asking questions like, well, how do you go about signing somebody up for your service, right? And you start digging out, and all of a sudden, you're talking to customer support, you're talking to CSRs, you're talking to account managers, you know, and everybody else is coming back to the manager that brought you in and said, hey, well, why is this person talking to all these other departments, right? Because UX is really just a small piece of it. You know, it's kind of the beginning of the tendrils into organization's design and function. Yeah,
it really is.
Has this wonderfully instructive ability to some people, but for others, it's wonderfully instructive ability to uncover all the hidden things that people just kind of glossed over for years. And then when someone comes in and starts asking questions, trying to understand and learn, they start uncovering those again and raising up emotions and concerns and things people just kind of shoved off to the side. And then when the UXer says, well, you know, how come it's like this? Dude, so it's just
yeah.
And then people start thinking about it and they have one of two reactions. One is like, gosh, that's absolutely right. I mean, if we change this, we can fix this. You know, they have this forward moment of, you know, understanding how UX systems vision, how to transform an organization. Others are like, that's way too expensive. You don't want it.
For sure.
So you're gonna more often it's gonna be the other. It's too expensive.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that hits the nail right on the head. In fact, what you have said ties very well back into what I was going to say next. So I'm going to go pick up from there. No, that's great. That was perfect. Thank you for the segue. I'm not an accountant, so I don't know what all those number thingies do for company growth. I'm not a lawyer, so I've never experienced the rush of emptying one company's coffers into another. I'm not a director of first impressions, so I don't know what on earth they do. Can you read that from there? Thought that was hilarious. Actually, maybe I am a director of first impressions. We're still defining ourselves. So that's fine, no problem. You don't know me, playa. So you don't know why you need me in the game. Allow me to explain. So we are more than the pointy end. I am sure that a lot of you have seen this movie. One of my favorite swashbuckler movies is The Mask of Zorro. So in The Mask of Zorro, if you haven't seen it, there's Don de la Vega is the old Zorro, and he is looking to pass off his mask to someone newer and younger. Alejandro, after having de la Vega explain his intentions to him, just jumps right out of his chair and grabs his sword, and he says, "All right, let's go." And then, you know, the wizened master says to him very, very wisely, "Are you sure you know how to use that thing?" And he says, "Yes, the pointy end goes into the other men." So, yeah, page flip time. In the war of commerce, it is much more tempting to focus on the pointy end of the sword rather than the tang, which is like the part you grip. I had to look it up. But when it comes right down to it, a sword is worthless without a steady hand to guide it true. A company's products are only the tip of the sword. You need a steady hand of user experience design to ensure that those products reach the end user in productive and meaningful ways. This is a great quote from Marcin Tretter, which is a CEO at UXPin, which is a great little prototyping and kind of UX process product. User experience design is a strategy of product development, and it should be present from the beginning. Focusing on the experience of your future users should lay at the heart of your approach to product development. There's no other way. And then kind of to back up what he said, this is, I really shouldn't have gotten Dr. Pepper. This is Walker, which is a UX group. Actually, they're a CX group, so customer experience. They said that they did some research. 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience. And then also by 2020, customer experience will overtake price and product as the key brand differentiator. I think you can always already see how Apple has used customer experience to be able to show themselves as show that as a key differentiator for brand. Okay, so why is there no other way? Why is a user experience design a key brand differentiator in the first place? I think it's because the sweet spot of the UX designer is just all sorts of things that are absolutely critical to not only the development of a product, but also for running a business. They define business requirements, they do user requirements, branding considerations, marketing objectives, just a whole lot more than that as well. In short, everything you need to make a product successful. Notice the sword again. Let's not go back to swords in movie history. All right. So there are 4 reasons in my mind why UX design is absolutely necessary in the product creation process. And here they are. Number 1, UX designers are your only user advocates. And I know there may be a couple of you out there right now going, they're not the only ones. No, they really are. They're your only ones. If years of user testing has taught me anything, it is that you are not your user. If you can't see this in the back there, it says Calvin going, everybody I know needs what I'm selling. And the product is a swift kick in the butt. So obviously he doesn't understand his user base very well. Companies always assume that they know exactly what the product needs to do in order to fulfill the user's wildest dreams. But you know what? They honestly have no clue. So why so much delusion? Because businesses take so much ownership over their products, and because they take so much ownership, because they take so much pride in their products, they assume that users see the same intrinsic value that they see in their product. But trust me, users really do see something entirely different, almost always. Here's a really good example. I apologize if you're offended by images of Bill Cosby. I'm from the 80s, man, so I remember the Cosby Show. It didn't quite offend me yet. But anyway, this is a really good example because, as you'll remember, they released in the 80s New Coke because they assumed that what users loved about Coke was, or what would make Coke better, what the job to be done, if you're familiar with that term, was an improved flavor. But actually what they didn't understand is that even Coke didn't even understand is that what users like about Coke is the classic value of it. In fact, they even brought back that term when they reintroduced the original Coke, classic Coke. They like the nostalgic value in Coke. They like that it is what it is and will always be what it always was. So there you go. That's a perfect example. Companies, they carry too much bias towards their precious creations. And as a result, they don't ask enough and they don't ask the right questions. This leads to inevitable myopia and to products that come way, way short of their mark. And that's where the UX designer comes in. They discover who your user really is, and they understand how to bring their hopes and their desires to bear, regardless of any kind of corporate bias. They know how to ask the right questions of the user, and afterwards, how to fight for them. A lot of 80s references, I apologize. It's so big on old 80s stuff. UX designers build empathy for the user as well. Underneath there it says you're doing it wrong. They make the entire product team more empathetic as well. And selflessness, if you've been part of a team that is selfless towards their user, it's a very, very productive mindset. If the first question that is asked in the dev team's mind and the marketing team's mind is, what does the user want? Then you have really done your job right as a UX person to communicate the value of of that kind of mindset. Okay, quote by Aristotle. I think it applies incredibly well to what we're talking about here. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. So, product teams come to see the product not only as an expression of business objectives, but as a tool for making the user's life better. This user-first mentality always leads to improved products. And funny enough, this always leads to stronger quarterly statements. And that's something that I'll talk about a little bit more in just a moment. So this is Martian Treader again. User experience is always present. It's not something you can skip now and do later. User experience is present whether you design for it or not. And if you don't take care of it, it will just get out of control. I'm sure many of you in here are familiar with the term technical debt. It is also possible to create user debt and to create design debt. If you don't take care of those problems immediately, they will compound over time. So even if it's an internal product, even if it's a dumb intranet site that no one's going to see except for a few employees within a group, those problems will compound over time until those few users don't even know how to use it anymore.
So,
yes, please.
What about in the case of Classic Coke? I love Amazon. I hate Amazon's checkout process.
Yeah, not the best.
It's funky, and what little I know about user experience is button location and how you drive traffic, tracking an eye across the screen. Amazon seems broken to me, but in the case of Coke, if we changed from Classic Coke to New Coke, it killed us. So is Amazon leaving their UI experience bad because of the New Coke change? Or are they not dealing with it because it's out of control? Or
wow.
Somebody who's going, it's good enough, you know, to go to your point, it's good enough, so let's leave it where it's at. I mean, I'm sure that some of you guys are facing that battle. Is that?
It's a really, really good question. I think that there may be some of that. They're leaving it as it is because they're afraid of not meeting user objectives, afraid of doing something that would, you know,
backfire.
Yeah,
it's working.
It's working. If it ain't broke, why fix it? I think more though what the New Coke example illustrates is that they didn't understand the job to be done.
Sure.
They didn't understand what users really wanted to accomplish with Coke. And I think that in Amazon, they might understand the job to be done a little bit more. Maybe they understand through their, and I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, maybe they understand through their user testing that their users don't care as much as you would think. Maybe they have seen their upticks in sales come from, you know, their incredible marketing efforts, including, like, you know, the customers also bought section, things like that. Maybe for them, that's accomplishing their job to be done, you know, for marketing, for internal purposes. I don't know. That's a really good question.
So much. It's
yeah. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Celestia.
My thoughts on this, first of me, is that the Amazon checkout follows basic UX principles. It's to the right, the buttons are in the right location, it moves, it's dynamic,
sure.
All of that. It's just not pretty, right?
It's not delightful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, maybe they kind of went with simplicity. Maybe they went with attrition. You know, people people know how it works. It's there. You know, it's not broken. Why fix it? Kind of thing. But it does follow the basic UX principles. You know, the standards of placement, functionality, all of that. It just is very simple. So it's, you know, it could be they left it simple because it works, so why bother? Or it could be, you know, they have so many users with so many very technical skills that some people might stop using it if they made it more complex or added more, you know, made it flashier. Or
made it simpler.
Flashier.
Yeah.
But if they did that, you know, some people might get confused or they might get overwhelmed. The simplicity makes it approachable and simple. But still follows UX principles, which is, you know, again, it doesn't always have to be big and beautiful and magnificent to be a good user experience.
And this is Celestia Garner, by the way. It's one of our PMOs. She's awesome what she does because she has a UX focus. So she's probably awesome for other reasons too. So
I'm a BA system analyst.
Oh, sorry, BA. Yeah.
I say PMO is kind of broad term.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of how you can fail to understand someone's profession.
And Neal and I have lots of great conversations of the overlap between the BA world and the UX world. And they really are intertwined quite a bit. There's a lot of overlap in what both of them are trying to do.
And I think Celestia highlighted really well why you need a UX person, because there's so many things to consider here. It isn't just about the users. Yes, there is business requirements. There needs to be a user focus, in my opinion, but you need to respect and be able to negotiate with the stakeholders as well. So there's so many considerations. A UX person is really a person who brings balance to all of those considerations. So it's a really good point. Cool. All right. So here's number 2. UX designers are problem solvers and relationship builders. This actually kind of ties into what I just said. You guys are giving me so many segues. I appreciate it. So, all right, I just talked about this with Brooke and Carrie here. If you want to offend a UX designer quickly, just casually ask them to just make it pretty. And I think you can even offend a graphic designer or all sorts of people in design professions to just make it pretty. There's so much more that goes into it. UX design goes a lot farther than simply making websites, apps, and the like attractive. We bring visual solutions to specific real-world business problems. Visual solutions are a tool in our tool set. We do this by focusing on touch points between the user and the company, and then optimizing them. And then, of course, we also we focus on building relationships between the two. We are bridge builders. So you've got the company on one side, you've got the consumer in the middle, and the consumer on the other side, and the UXer in the middle. The UX designer builds the company to consumer bridge by fostering growth in several relationships. You'll find that most UXers, and by the way, this is a term that I'm hoping to patent because I'm totally saying UXer all the time now. It's totally cool. Holla. We're pretty darn congenial people. We tend to be anyway, right? I'm a little bit spazzy. Not everyone's as spazzy as I am, but we're all pretty friendly UX people. And I think there's a reason for that. It's because we have years of experience working with all of these people, stakeholders, users, product managers, marketing teams, developers, just everyone tied to a business. We try to get our fingers dipped into a lot of different pies. Your page. So because we love and work well with people, we also understand everyone's needs. And even better, we know how to prioritize and give life to all of those needs. And as a result, we create some killer effective mashups. I had so much fun looking for mashup images. Here's a couple of them. Got a Nintendo mashup, and then we've got a Calvin and Hobbes and Star Wars mashup. So, do you need a good masher-upper in a product team? I mean, you better believe it. This is what you do without a masher-upper. It's very frustrating, as you can see. Without the proper coordination of objectives, and there would be competition with those objectives for room at the top, and it would create just this amorphous mess of competing priorities. This, of course, wastes endless time and money as companies gut products over and over again, seeking that perfect balance. UX people help you to cut out the mess. Okay. Number 3, UX designers bring a fresh and highly trained perspective. This is one of my favorite UX quotes, and I'm sure Henry Ford wasn't thinking this is a UX quote at the time. He famously said, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. That is exactly what UX people do. They help you to think about the things that you haven't even begun to think about yet, that you haven't even dreamed or imagined thinking about yet. That is what we attempt to do. Regardless of the product, it's amazing how often customers and companies fail to spot the forest for the trees. This is Ed Catmull again. He said, in order to create, you must internalize and almost become the project for a while. And that near fusing with the project is an essential part of its emergence. But it is also confusing, where once you could see a forest, now there are only trees. What we attempt to do as UX designers is to step back, to take that long view, but also to be hands-on whenever necessary, so we can provide the perspective of someone who is up close and someone who is far away. Let's see. So in order to do this, in order to accomplish this close-up, far-away person who can communicate with everyone and who can design and who can talk to coders, you need a freak. So many good freak images on the internet too. That was another fun search. We have freakishly diverse backgrounds in order to have this incredible perspective. We are branding gurus, information architects, prototype experts, graphic designers, product planners, coders, business analysts, a whole lot more. So what we do is, we take this unique perspective and this multidisciplinary grounding helps us to see products differently. And this unique view helps us to approach product development in innovative, eye-opening ways. We can iterate and iterate and iterate, coming up with crazy, unheard-of solutions every time. And the result is products that stand out in all the right ways. We don't just get crazy for the sake of getting crazy. We get crazy for the user. We get crazy for disruption's sake, for the ability to be able to take products and companies to the next level. Okay, last case. UX designers are directly tied to bottom lines. UX designers are about helping companies make money. They are about the bottom line. So one of the ways we do that is by helping you to save money. Iconic architect Frank Lloyd Wright just states in the absolute best way what designers do to help companies save money. You can use an eraser on the drafting table or a sledgehammer on the construction site. You dev people in here, have you ever had to use a sledgehammer on your code? Control-Alt-Delete? Yeah, okay, so I guess there's some of that. And I guess it's a little bit more than just saying sledgehammer on your code because, there's so much that goes with that. There's regression testing and there's QA test cases and, there's all sorts. Have you ever had to take a sledgehammer, Brian?
My sister's first job out of college, they gave her a Linux admin, and I told her to go on to work and CD the root, type in RM on SRF star, and see what would happen. The next day, she had a limited account for her machine's work because it would reform.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, there's with that great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Yes, more often than not. In fact, they say that every stage in software development, the cost was of an order of magnitude. So something caught 3 steps further in the process cost you 100 times more.
Yeah.
So yes, I've seen it firsthand. A question with that I have for you. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sure, go ahead.
I love the notion of iterate, iterate, iterate. Do you find it difficult to be in that scenario with bounds? So a project I worked on that was a beautiful aside from user experience, but it became a budgetary problem because, and I know this is tying to the whole thing that we're discussing. We never went back to the customer and said, "Look at how amazing this is that we can build you." But we could also give you this that's pretty dang good. To go back to Celestia's point, this works. It touches on all the points we have, but it will cost you 10% of what this guy will offer you. So do you face those challenges? How do you overcome those challenges of going back and saying, look at this amazing idea I have. By the way, there's $1 million price tag with it. Or there's this pretty good idea I have that it's a $100,000 price tag.
Okay, Tommy, I'm going to startle you here. I would love to have you address that question because I know that Tommy and I are on the same team at the LDS Church. We run into this question a lot where we have a great idea, or the devs, we have great ideas from the devs and from all sorts of people on the team for things that would work well. However, they don't quite fit into MVP, or they don't quite, it would create too much dev weight. Could you address that and talk about how that works on our team?
Sure. So, sorry, I was not paying attention.
But anyway, what I said was a perfect restatement of what he said.
Yeah, so did you,
yeah, see.
We're really lucky we have a really awesome team. We've got a lot of smart people. We have on the side that Neal spoke to, we have an iOS team of developers. On the side that I'm focused on, and then we've got some really great. So we have a lot of ideas that are constantly being thrown around. UX is not an isolated. Those that have UX
I think that their job is to take the best ideas and
Yeah.
shape them forward. But the idea is kind of like designing from all directions. I think that's some of our best ideas. Anyway, so yeah, we frequently have great ideas that go forward or we'll do some research in front of the team, and our developers will say, you know, that could work, but it would save us a lot of money if we built it this way instead, and then we can consider
Yeah.
really awesome, or truly that would be a terrible experience. So we have a chance to consider and mitigate in that stage. But then, yeah, a lot of times things will come up that don't fit into the roadmap. And so we have to have a process where we log those good ideas, try to come back to them. The all sources are good sources for.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess that's.
No, it's.
No, that tied right in. That was good.
I have a follow-up question, but I'll let you go. And I want to give other people a chance to ask some questions.
Oh, for sure.
See if you touch it on the end.
Okay. And I think Tommy touched on a lot of, I hope that you could see from that the balancing act that designers are continually having to play. We're right at the center of fulfilling requirements from so many different sources. You know, there's the dev team has some concerns about implementation. The stakeholder wants to make sure that, you know, this business requirement gets in there because it helps to accomplish business objectives. And then I would say that if the UX designer is tilted in any direction, it is towards the user. We try to represent what the user's concerns are, but we are still flexible in balancing those with everyone else's concerns. So thank you for letting me startle you. Appreciate it. Okay. So back to where I was in my notes here. So far too often, today's products are a representation of ready, fire, aim mentality. Product creators push and push for a minimum viable product that meets deadlines, and then they realize to their horror that users are retching on the monkey poop that they've birthed. They quickly scramble to clean up the mess, but not without a massive loss of time and resources. I hope that you haven't had this experience, but I fear that many of you have. An early investment in user experience saves companies money in terms of endless rethinks, rewrites, and recalculations. UXers accomplish this by, and we've already touched on some of this, creating viable, actionable product strategies, stripping unnecessary product features, clarifying product direction, decreasing development time, and a whole lot more. That's what we offer, a whole lot more. Hope you don't get anything else from that for this. One more really good quote about that. This is the CEO of Jaguar and Land Rover. If you think good design is expensive, you should look at the cost of bad design. And I think that is so true. UX designers make money for companies by making products that their customers love. Nothing is more meaningful to financial growth than devoted and engaged super fans. An optimized product is the conduit for creating these fans. And the channel for an optimized product is, ding, 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 the user experience designer. Humble, of course. Okay, so let's see. How much time have we got left here?
You're 12:30.
Oh, God, great. Doing great. Let me show you a couple of case examples here. I do not believe I can ever belabor a point enough, so I'm going to show you two more examples of how the UX process was able to help a couple of different companies. This is, sorry, one more page flip here, then I promise I'm done with the page flipping. Okay. This is a UX firm called Web Credible. It's some work that they did for Dulux Paint. The challenges that were brought to them is there's this lack of consumer confidence in color and uncertainty with the end result. I mean, I'm sure if you've ever painted a wall, you've had this experience. You never know if, even if what you have in the can is going to be what you see on the wall. So they sought to address this. Their goals were to make customers want to redecorate, to increase sales of their tester paints through the app and through the store, and then to have a growing number of app users. So their solution was the Web Visualizer app. I'm going to show you some of their deliverables. What I love about UX design is that the deliverables are in sketch form and in all these nascent kind of forms that aren't fully realized. That's the devs' job. The devs do that. But sometimes UXers are devs too, so they do that as well.
A lot of people consider UX.
Mhm.
Always going to be.
Yeah,
And-
right out of the box.
And, you know, there are people that are really good UXers that are also visual designers, but you know, it's not mutually exclusive. There are
Yes, very
good
true.
UXers, but they're really good problems.
Mhm.
That's one of the things. Takeaways was that UX designers are not necessarily visual designers.
Mm. I think that's a really important distinction. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that I would also add to that that we all bring different strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, my background is marketing and graphic design and user testing and UI principles. That's kind of like where I'm a little bit stronger.
Making things look pretty.
Making, oh my gosh. If you listen to nothing that I've said, I'm a sucky coder, really sucky. Tommy is an amazing organizer. Oh my gosh, you should see all the great work he's doing for our user testing session later this week. So we all have these different like strengths and weaknesses. I haven't discovered Tommy's weaknesses yet, or else I'd highlight them. But anyway, so yeah, he just shakes his head. So we all have these different strengths and weaknesses within there, but absolutely, all of us are excellent problem solvers, and that's really what's at the heart of what we do. So let's see, some of the results. Oh, sorry, let me show you a couple more of the deliverables along their little journey. So you can see here they've got like some different visualizations, a little bit more high fidelity of what this app would look like, kind of visualizing the paint on the wall. The results were a 65% increase in tester paint sales, 92% increase in stock list searches, 5 million downloads globally. This kind of thing does not happen unless it is user-centered. The user is not going to download it 5 million times unless they're somewhat interested in it. Another example here is another UX firm, Slice of Lime, working for Sphero. Sphero is well, as you can see just looking at it, it's like, what is that?
It's an orb.
It's an orb, right? What can you do with this orb? It's a robotic ball. Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
You have one?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I only got it first generation.
This is probably first gen too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but it's just an app on your like
Second generation program.
yeah.
And they, of course,
Oh, yeah.
BB-8.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the base for BB-8, right?
They expanded that to where the whole Star Wars, you have R2, you
Mhm.
have all those, instead of Century, and it's really cool because it's kind of like the Lego Mindstorms in the sense that it's getting kids more involved in the good parts of technology. Of hey, look at the value that this can bring, kind of expanding their creative thinking. So,
5-year-old loves it because she has a BB-8.
Oh, yeah.
Loves a droid at Star Wars.
That's so great.
Program because it's a BB-8.
Oh, that's so great. No, that's some applications of the product I hadn't thought of.
$100.
Awesome. What
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Oh, I flip with it, Sam.
You guys didn't know Neal's a distributor.
Yeah, I'm also for
So
Amway
through you,
and all
by
sorts of
Sphero,
things. No, I'm just kidding.
Neal retired.
Now you know.
That's exactly right. I'm peddling UX today, folks. Don't let them throw you off. But no, this is great. We've actually got a couple of evangelists and some test cases for the success of a user-centered approach. Carrie, what do you like about your Sphero? Or why did you get it?
Got it so
Why did you think it was cool?
because there's a lot of new technologies and things that I see and I'm just like that's new. Like that's something that I've never seen. But yet brings you to that have okay, that's cool. So,
Okay. You sound like an early adopter.
yeah, I was an early adopter. I don't have it anymore.
Oh, okay. Oh man, this is a terrible use case. Then.
Yeah. I was curious, robotics and
Cool.
technology tools, and I was curious on the application of phone,
Awesome.
how it manipulates it. So it was fun.
Very cool.
It is, but it isn't. I'm just assuming you probably haven't bought Lego Mindstorms. And why? Because it seems Tinker Toys. It seems like I have to go assemble. It's not something that
Yeah.
So look,
It isn't as elegant.
Same market, same audience, same drive for what you're trying to do. It's getting this generation involved with programming and tied into your phone and with a market. But here's something you went, hey, I'll give it a try and play with it. They got a customer out of it. They got somebody out of it. Even if you passed it on, I haven't bought Lego Mindstorms. You haven't bought Lego Mindstorms.
About Legos.
Yes. But
Yeah, I do have Legos.
In different markets. So I actually think it's still a very successful product.
Yeah.
So,
Comparison is why we
Okay.
have two robots. One's white, shiny,
Uh-huh.
rusted, and funky. It's exactly what we've been talking about.
feeling for the user.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exception.
No, that's a good point. Of course, I do think the Wally was great for the job to be done, which is not only to scoop garbage, but to entertain millions of people. Yeah.
And there was a love story.
No, totally. I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's about the love story. All right, so enough selling Sphero here.
So,
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
right here, one thing
Yes.
about the Sphero is, as far as marketing is concerned, for $100 you can have a robot.
Mm-hmm.
You can program, play around your house and stuff like that.
I would imagine that the price point is just as much a part of the user experience as anything. At the last Front conference that we went to, there was a whole presentation about how price plays into user experience as well. So yeah, and it solves that as well.
Term, any market research, market analysis, market research, it's not just
Yeah.
the price point, it's knowing who our market is, what that price point is going to tie into. And I really do believe that's part of user experience.
Oh,
Part of
yeah,
UI, part of
absolutely.
User experience, understanding who and what you're trying to
Yeah.
drive to what.
You need to understand the competition, and you need to be able to distill all that information and share it with the team. You need to be able to then sell your ideas as a result of all that distillation. So once again, the communication thing. Here are some, this is actually a little bit more based for the, this was UX design for the app and then also for the website. You can see there's a little bit more of a high fidelity wireframe than what you saw before. Most of the time, in my experience, a little whiteboard sketch or just putting something down on paper works great. But sometimes you want to see it a little bit more fleshed out. The client does, and that's great. We do whatever the client needs for us. And then here,
High fidelity or
sorry.
would that be a low fidelity wireframe?
In my experience, that's more. I look at low fidelity as just like a sketch, and then high fidelity would be anything you do in Balsamic or Illustrator or Sketch. Yeah, that could be just my personal feelings on it. Though.
Wireframes fidelity is my favorite design term. If you ask me a question about design, I'll say, well,
It depends.
what are you looking for? The same thing's true with wireframes, right? So, depending on the need, the level of fidelity, what do you have just before? I would maybe medium fidelity because it's a gray box. It has
Medium fidelity is good.
So that, whereas sketches are different. Even some design stuff could be considered low fidelity. How close to the final?
Yeah.
Good to know.
I've learned with them, it really does depend on your client or the company you're working for. A company that has a very well-established design unit, experience focus, they want that high fidelity. They want the more nitpicky details of why things are placed where they are. Companies that are, that want you to make something look pretty. Flip that. The companies that want you to make something pretty, they want more fleshed out stuff because they need to see what the final is like. Companies that are more UX focused don't need those fleshed out stuff because they can understand from basic sketches.
Yeah.
What you're trying to. Sorry, I flipped that.
No, that's fine.
That actually ties to the question I was going to ask earlier, and I didn't start. I'm glad you brought that up. In agile development, so going back to my role,
Mhm.
whenever I have a customer who is less technical or less involved, the fidelity has to go up. I have
Yes,
to have
that's
better
right.
pictures. The cliche, pictures with 1,000 words, they can't seem to grasp that concept until they see it. I was A-okay with us sketching out. I mean, I love watching you guys take notes and sketches and stuff, just seeing it goes. It's just so much different from my world. But I was fine with us sketching out on paper, throwing an image up in Jira or the Basecamp or whatever we're doing, Trello to manage our stories and say, go. And then I'd go to a client who was non-technical at all, and they're like, this isn't, I don't understand. Where is this going? To the point that we had, which was a double-edged sword, because the point that we would go do images, and as tools got better and better and better, that I could link images through clicks and make it act like a website and do, transition them through Flow. Then I got the flip side of that, which is, gosh, it's almost built.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, seriously. Neal, you've done too much of a good job. I think this is done. We got 8 months worth of work to do. So yeah, it's always that. The whole idea behind the fidelity of wireframes is a fascinating one. And yeah, it's you've got to be really careful with that.
Yeah, in fact, the way that I apply it on my team, it's a very, very well-established product, and I've spent well over a couple of years just defining the material design aspects, defining the human interface guideline. There's all this groundwork laid. So for me, a lot of the time, the wireframes are just to define the functionality. And then once that's been defined, then there's really not much else to do except plug it in and go. So it all ends up, a lot of the times my deliverables look like this just because so much is established. But anyway, this is an example of what I commonly call a high fidelity comp, or this could even be the actual final product that we're looking at here. It's hard to tell the difference. And then here's an example of some sub-branding. So if a vendor wants to be able to use it on their site, they have some templates they can choose from. There's a CMS tied to the back end for Sphero vendors, Sphero sellers, and they can come in and they can choose templates for being able to sell it. As a result of all of this, they experienced on their website a 127% increase in page views, users staying on the site 38% longer, and the overall bounce rate being decreased by 17%. Allow me to finish with this. The legendary IBM designer Elliot Noyes. And of course I burped right before saying, good design is good business. All right. So back to where we started. UX designers are kind of ugly. Man, oh man, do you need us. Any questions?
Yeah, so
Yes.
where do you get your statistics from? As far as the percentage of sales and increases and whatnot, is that from the marketing department?
That's a really good question, and it could be slanted.
I'd like to know that for stuff that so.
I totally just picked it off of a website, and it's hard to find. I found it through these, so the Slice of Lime one I found on their website, and it was just one of their case studies, and I think that was true of, what's this other one here, the Web Credible.
So you're talking about, for just as examples, are you talking about how to do that for your own products?
Yeah, it's for
Oh,
products.
okay.
So, yeah, how do I?
So that is what
those kind of statistics.
Amateur, Google Analytics,
Mhm.
the LVAM stuff has that tied in there.
Yep.
Observe Point. Those are actually, the cool thing is those are 3 local companies that we can go to and get that experience from.
But along those lines though too, some of the challenges that you find are, these are very specific results that they had. Typically, when you start a project that has a UX involvement, you're going to want to have, what are the key business results that you want out of it, and then give the team the autonomy to determine, okay, let's say you want to increase sales by 10%. So you say, here's, I want you to improve sales by 5% on the website. So let them do the research, figure out what solutions can possibly do that for you. Martin Erickson is the founder of marketing. has a really good presentation about that. We did Silicon Slopes last month. But you know, it's about giving, you know, saying, okay, here are our business objectives that we want, and then giving the team the autonomy to say, if you can, you guys, you know, I want you guys to move this number here. Let them figure out how to have them responsible and accountable for moving that. So that's going to give them visibility and freedom to figure out what's in the.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that, Ty. I couldn't have said it better myself. Especially because I hadn't been to this Silicon Slopes presentation.
One thing to add to that, so you said key business requirements, KPIs, key performance indicators. One thing we do a lot of this is we work with what's called the 4 disciplines of execution, 4DX.
It's awesome.
Huge believer. I know, Neal, you're definitely a believer, an evangelist of it. There's a great read. It talks about how you want to set goals and achieve those goals. And it ties into what you're talking about with key performance indicators. If we want to see this, when will we consider this successful? Because a 92% increase in stock list search, is that good? Is that what we were going for? We were hoping for a 200% increase.
We were hoping for 100 million downloads.
Yeah,
you know.
so going and the reason I like that surrounding 40X is it helps you realistically go set a goal of the MVP, of what we want to do, of what we determine as success, and work towards that. Because to you know, belabor your question or your point is that, great, I got statistics, you know, Mark Twain, lies, and statistics. That's what we've got.
Those lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah, I looked it up last time. To go down that path, I think that's really important to realize how you're going to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve to drive that, consider that a success, because those look great. Was that successful? And was that what they were talking for? And we always see product announcements, or you know, Apple they come out and show earnings, and they earned only $100 billion in the stock drops. You know, like, I'd be good with, you know, just $1 billion. I don't need $100 billion. So I think there's some things you can drive out as far as maybe is concerned.
Yeah.
The challenge is too is having this spatial focus at, right? So you say this is what we want to measure, but as you start working at it, you realize that hey, the response might be a lot higher or might be a lot lower. That's the time to say, okay, are we measuring the right thing? Because really determining what it is that you want to improve on is probably the hardest thing to determine. And best to do that with your analysts. You know, they're going to be the ones to help you really hone in on the problem space and solve for it. But then, you know, helping you set a realistic thing. But then there's the challenge of having to just stick with that decision and empower people.
A new term in the industry now is pretotyping, which is solving all the problems, like making sure that you're even heading down the right path before you start to do the product design effort. You know, and I think that that's something else that UX people do as well. Of course, you know, business analysts do a large amount of that. Also, UX people, in my mind, they are sort of they support the business analyst, or they act as a business analyst depending on the makeup of the team. But yeah, there's tons of analysis for designers, and then also setting of objectives for UX designers as well.
And one of the key skills for stakeholder, I with that community, you know, like I was trying to, you know, Neal didn't show this, but there's typically this really big jumble scribble that you can get because so much is in it.
Yeah.
Start with it as you work and iterate toward the final solution. So it's really challenging. Well, I just want to get over here to point B. It's really challenging to stick with it and allow that ambiguity to work through.
For sure.
Work through that ambiguity. So that's where you're really going to find a lot of time. You can definitely put constraints on the space that you're solving for. Because when you put some constraints on there, you're going to be able to have more concrete ideas around stuff. To just give them a break, blank slate is really kind of self-defeating. Dangerous. It's going to have constraints to work with those constraints, but it's going to be challenging.
Awesome.
Because there's gonna be a lot of.
Yeah.
So it's
Very true.
actually 1 o'clock.
Oh, it is. Okay. Don't ask any more questions. We have to pull the plug
You're
now.
not, no,
Feel free to come talk to me after.
I wanted to